February, February, February books. Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about the books that I read last month in February. So I read 5 books totaling over 2,000 pages, and I read some super popular books right now, like a #1 to a series that everyone's talking about. I read a brand new release, and I also read a couple other books that I had never heard of, so maybe you've never heard of them either. So if you're curious to know what I was up to last month, then stick around and I hope you enjoy. The first book I read in February is called Dungeons and Drama by Christy Boyce. This was a library book, and the genre is young love romance. It is a young adult book. It is 304 pages long, and I rated it 3 1/4 stars. It definitely was a guilty pleasure read for me, and I chose this book because of the title. My husband and one of my sons really like Dungeons and Dragons, so I thought it sounded like a cute little book to read. I started it January 29th and I finished it February 2nd, so I put this in my February reads since I finished it in February. And Dungeons and Drama is about main character Riley. She gets caught driving her mom's car without a driver's license, and as her punishment, her parents decide she'll have to work at her dad's game shop for 8 weeks. Riley has a strained relationship with her dad after her parents' divorce, and she needs to learn to accept her dad and his love of Dungeons and Dragons. She meets Nathan at the shop and they become friends, and they have to come up with an agreement to fake a relationship to get back at one of her ex-boyfriends and to make the girl that Nathan likes jealous. So it is a enemies to lover or fake lovers to lovers. It's super cute. It's a teen love story. There's no spice. It's just a super cute book, and there is a part 2 that I definitely will add to my TBR list. It was just a super cute little love story. The second book I read is called The 13th Child, and it is written by Erin A. Craig. It is a gothic fairy tale young adult book. I read the library physical copy of it, and it was 512 pages long. I rated this 5 stars. It was emotional and not exactly what I expected, but it was very good. I chose this book because I saw a review of it on YouTube, and I started reading this on February 2nd, and I finished on February 8th. Hazel is the 13th child born to a poor family and is given away before birth to the god of death. On her 13th birthday, he comes for her and he moves her to the in-between land where she lives alone in a cottage, and she must read thousands of books to learn human biology and medicine so that she can become the world's greatest healer. She goes on to cure many, but has another dark job to do as well. She can see when she touches people what exactly she needs to do to heal them, but sometimes she will see like a skull, and that means the person is meant to die. So she's not to interfere with that, but as you can imagine, there are people she meets along the way that she wants to survive. So she's conflicted between right and wrong several times throughout the story. It is really good. It's really dark. It's very like a gothic fairy tale, and it's based off of the Grimm's fairy tale Godfather Death. It's magical and dark and tragic, but captivating and lovely at the same time. I really liked it, and I was surprised by how much I liked this book. I definitely recommend. The third book I read in February was The Scandalous Confessions of Lydia Bennet Witch. This was a library book, and it was 387 pages. The genre would be literary fiction, and I gave it 2.5 stars. It was definitely not what I expected. I chose this book because I was doing a library book bingo, and one of the categories was inspired by a TV show, movie, play, or classic lit. And obviously, this is based off of Jane Austen's character in Pride and Prejudice, Lydia Bennet. I read this book from February 8th to February 16th. I was kind of slow with it just because I wasn't really 100% into the book at the time. It started out kind of slow. But the summary is it's based off of Jane Austen's character in Pride and Prejudice. Lydia Bennet is the youngest sister, and this version of the story, she's a witch and she goes on witchy adventures. It's an interesting take on the historical novel and the famous Bennet family. It's the point of view from Lydia and a story she's telling. It was a little hard for me to follow because it's swapping between her current point of view and the story that she's writing, and it wasn't always clear if it was in the past or the present. So it took me a little while to get used to the writing style of it. It was a pretty long book at almost 400 pages, and I didn't really enjoy the first half of it. Once I got halfway through, though, I was dedicated to the story. I needed to find out what was going on and what was happening. In my opinion, I feel like it could have been cut much shorter and still been a pretty good book. If you like Jane Austen and the Bennet family, I definitely would recommend. If you're not super into it or familiar, you could maybe pass on this one. The next book I read was Fourth Wing by Rebecca Yarros, and this is a romantasy. I read the library book and also listened to the audio and kind of flip-flop between the two. This book is 528 pages and quite the commitment for me, just because it is a long book and then it is part of a series as well. I rated it 4 stars. It's not exactly what I expected because I liked it better than I thought I would. It was recommended by my sister and everybody on the internet. The third book recently came out, so I feel like everyone kind of knows about Fourth Wing at this point. I started reading it February 10th and I finished on February 26th. My sister described it as Harry Potter meets Hunger Games, and that's exactly what it is. It's a romantasy, so romance and fantasy combined, about main character Violet Sorrengail. She is forced to give up her dream, and she has to follow her mother's demands to enter the deadly world of dragon riders. So she must train and survive the school and training and to ultimately bond with a dragon. And the dragons and dragon riders protect the borders of their lands against different creatures and different magic. Violet must fight her family drama, make new friends, dump old friends, train her small and frail body, and forget everything she's ever known to be true in order to survive. I put off reading it for a while just because I'm not a big romantasy or fantasy reader, and the length of the book was kind of intimidating, especially it being a series. But I'm glad I read it, and I will definitely read the other books, but probably not anytime soon. I liked the story, but I'm not completely in it the way other people are. But it's still very good. The final book I read in February is The Favorites by Lane Fargo. I read the library book version of this, and it was 448 pages. It's a romance, maybe leaning more even into drama for the genre, and I gave it 4 stars. My quick opinion of the book were it was not what I expected, and it was a guilty pleasure read for me. I chose this book because I saw on YouTube that it was going to be a new release and a book to read in 2025. I think it just came out in January. I read it from February 26th to February 27th, so I actually finished it in less than 24 hours. I was just kind of like engulfed in the story. It's about, so the summary of the book is it's an ice skating book. Main character, Katrina Ska, has spent her entire life obsessing, wanting to become an Olympic medalist in ice dancing. And she and her skate partner have grown up together, and they've always been connected on and off the ice. They beat all odds and find themselves training with her childhood ice dancing idol. But drama, deception, love, and lust continue to get in Katrina's way toward her ultimate goal, which is winning that gold medal. It's written a lot like Daisy Jones and the Six. It's narrated like it's a TV documentary with different people commenting and telling their version of the story and what happened. That's kind of leading up to like one main event that happens at the end. And that's kind of what kept me going with the story. I kind of needed to find out like, well, what happens? What are they like referencing to the whole time? I was pretty obsessed with this book and I couldn't put it down. And then after I read it, I'm like, not a ton actually happened. And it wasn't spicy, even though the cover really suggested that it would be. It's definitely more drama than romance. And I can't quite put my finger on why I loved it so much, but I did. It was really good. And I read it in less than 24 hours. So obviously it pulled me in. And that is The Favorites. I read a total of 5 books, and I just wanted to mention again, I keep track of all of my reads here in this Book Lover's Journal. I am still a huge fan of it. I write down all my thoughts, opinions, and I even add a little more, like what version of the book I read, if it's the library book or audiobook, and then the pages. I read a total of 2,179 pages in February, spread across 5 books. And again, I got this from Target for $8.99. You really can't beat that price, and it just keeps me really organized. I can mark down my thoughts and opinions on the book as soon as I finish it before I forget any details that I want to remember. And when you read a ton of books like I do, sometimes they all blend together, so I really like to write stuff down right away, and then I can reference back, especially for these videos and when I do recaps of the year and the month, and it just keeps me really nicely organized. Thanks so much for being here and for watching my video today. Let me know in the comments what books you are reading this month and if I should add them to my TBR list. Oh my gosh, I'm so awkward.